Hey, you're special. You're kind of like the main character of the universe or something. I don't
Describe it.
really know
it's
how to
hard
put
put
it,
my
but
finger on.
there's
But
just something about
the
you
way
that
they walk.
no one
something
else
about
has
them
ever
is
had or ever
special.
will have.
It's like they're
it's
walking
just
with the purpose
special.
of the
I
universe.
don't know how
or
to put it
something like
other
that.
than
It's so
special
hard to
because
describe.
you
have
are
it in you.
special,
You know
too.
why?
There's something
You
about
just-
it.
you can do it
You
'cause you're
keep
special.
going with that.
You
Because
have
you're
this.
special.
You can
You
do
got
this.
this.
And
You
you
can
can
because
do
of
it.
anything
You
that
can't
can
waste
do
being
anything
special like that.
You have
Because
to.
you're
You're
special.
special.
You're special. You have
I
to
can't
do it.
imagine
You
you
can
like
do it.
special.
Feel
You
like
can
that.
put
Put
your
your
mind
mind
to
to
it.
it.
You
Feel
feel
like
special.
change your imagination.
Anything
You
really
gotta
gonna
work
world
your
special.
special.
You're
You're
being
special.
special.
You're
You're
gonna
gonna
get
world.
special.
You're
You're
special.
special.
You're
You have to be
special.
special.
You're gonna
Fake it.
special.
How could you not do something else? You're special. Everything limited. You're special. You're not right. You're special. You're special. So do something. You're special. Then be special. Do something with it. You're special. You're special. You do nothing. You're special. Be special.
You can't just be it.
You're special.
So be special. Wonder Egg Priority is the story of 4 girls, Rika, Momoe, and Neiru, whose lives were all changed by the suicide of someone close to them. In the wonder of their adolescence lies the temptation of death and the draw of unworldly expectation. They all end up in the same place, an abandoned arcade inhabited by 2 dummies, Aka and Uraraka, who watch over Wonder Eggs, the method to save girls lost to suicide. Those chosen to enter this world can crack the eggs, fight off the demons that dwell in the souls of those lost, and in doing so, return the life of one such girl they knew. If they succeed in saving enough strangers, eventually someone close to them who took their own life can come back to life. Ai is the first girl we see, a habitual loner who holds one truth close to her heart. She has no friends. Except she did once. Koito, a transfer student who decided to be her friend, whatever Ai thought about it. Calm and collected, she became the subject of the school's bullies, something Ai attributed to their association and this loner's condition. She has 2 different colored eyes, a trait that she says brought the ire of her classmates and ruined her self-image. Her left eye is always hidden behind bangs. Her friendless status is brought on again when Koito jumps from the school's roof, leaving Ai completely in the dark. Was it Koito's crush on their teacher, her mother's new boyfriend, and the one Ai herself might have liked? Was it her failure to help Koito catch the bullies, the smile she gave even after being tortured? This mystery becomes the crux of her character, a simple why. Rika is much the opposite to Ai, a former small-time idol, the daughter of an absent father and a careless mother, one of whom she wants to find and the other she despises. The few words she remembers from her fraternal lineage shape her personality. A pretty girl doesn't need a wallet, someone else will always pay for her. So instead, she finds wallets. A pathological mooch, she allows one of her fans, Chimi, to become her wallet, buying her anything and everything. Stubborn in her image, but haunted by the abuse she inflicts, Rika eventually cuts off her ties in the harshest way, saying she couldn't be seen with someone so ugly. Later, another fan tells Rika Chimi died, nothing left to her but skin and bone. In her mind, those words are the reason. The guilt she feels and the depressing nature of her life is something she brings into physicality. Regaining the love of someone who truly enjoyed her, one of the few things to stop this self-inflicted pain, becomes core to Rika's character. Momoe is a girl with graceful features, but in a way more befitting a masculine presentation. Because of this, she feels her life is more presentable as a boy, and she becomes popular with her classmates and a corner of the internet alike, having a small bit of fame as a handsome boy. Girls ask her out more than anyone else, even knowing that she's a girl, just wanting her to play the host appearance she gives. Momoe denies them all, even her best friend Haruka, a girl who knew and accepted her femininity and wanted her with that in mind. Once denied, she takes her own life soon after. There's no confirmation, but it leaves Momoe with an inescapable feeling of regret. She feels like her actions were the cause. This becomes her reason to fight, to bring back a life she feels she took. Neiru is the most unrelatable of the bunch, a product of brains rather than love, she was born from in vitro fertilization to two parents she would never know, chosen only for their genetics. This was the choice of Japan Plotty, a gathering of the smartest minds. Where others struggle with parental issues, she never knew what even having them was like. She heads a corporation at her young age, already focused on business over the less mentally engaging aspects of daily life. It seems she has everything, so why does she fight? Well, for her sister, or rather to move on from her sister. She stabbed Neiru in the back, ran, and jumped from a bridge. Something she learns of later in the ICU. She says if she doesn't fight to bring her back, her scar aches. If she gives up, it'll just continue to ache forever. Her reason is herself, something she admits plain and simple, and something she questions about the rest. These are girls who present tragedy as clear as day through their unique situations. They're the pictures of tragedy stuck between lackluster normality and mental destruction. They're relatable, but obviously special. I think? Are they really special, though? Is there something of their beings that makes them distinct, or is it manufactured? Is it just the human desire to be remembered? Not speciality, but simply the want for it. Ai says repeatedly that she doesn't have friends. Her world is closed off and small, down to the way she wears her hoodie and the layout of her room. She doesn't leave enough space for anyone else in her world because she doesn't want anyone else in her world. She says her eyes get her bullied. No matter how someone looks, how they feel about their own image is valid, and people can be bullied for anything. And she probably was. But there's something so unbelievable about that. It might just be down to the presentation of the anime and the need for characters to be beautiful, but every single character that comments on her eyes does so positively, that comments on her image does so positively. Her first interactions with Rika and Koito are just this. They're enamored with her and those eyes, not disgusted by them. It's like every bad movie where the ugly girl just needs to let down her hair and take off a pair of glasses. Her struggles are valid, but are they exaggerated? And then after one episode of this eye, we see this one. An eye who follows Neiru around and keeps talking until she gets a response. An eye who goes out of her way for her friends, who goes out of her way to make friends. It feels like a rushed character arc, and that might be the case. But there could be something more to such a sudden shift and the seeming cracks in her story. Depression and loneliness are terrible feelings that can lead to the worst outcomes. But isn't there a weird validity to them? When you feel like the world is closing in or there's no one left, that's a real and valid struggle. In some traumatic way, they make your situation feel special. Like it's something to genuinely be overcome, not just another day like everyone else is having. Like it's the part of a larger plot, the backstory to a tragic hero. Ai's life is exceptionally average. There's nothing interesting about her family or her home or her school. But if she struggles, there's something special about her. I think Ai has a desire to be special, and that's why she keeps herself from having friends. Why she says, if we could, I'd be happy when Koito wants to be friends. Why she becomes so different once she's a magical girl in this dream world. With that in mind, she is special. There's no need for an eternal war to make her feel that way anymore. Rika has an obvious desire to be something more than her situation. Everything about her screams it, her introduction repeated to every character where she falsely explains her name, her period as a junior idol, her attitude that belittled everyone else. Rika's situation is one that would make anyone feel worthless. Her dad left, leaving her with only the memories of a few sentences that she clings to. Another reason for her attitude and usage of others is only mark on her being essentially, you have to be special. A statement that not only explains her situation, but puts expectation on her. She's supposed to be better than others, worthy of their earnings. She's supposed to be beautiful and lovable, an object of monetary affection. The kind of fake love her mother shows for her, hardly waking up from a drunken stupor to hand her a bit of cash on her birthday. She takes from others habitually, but there's no reality to the word free. She simply pays in another way, having to throw practiced introductions and good times around at a moment's notice, lest she be left behind for someone who can. She brushes away awkward silence and hard topics with a cheerful tone, because those things aren't fun, and to be carried she has to be fun and engaging. And she gets enough of those moments at home, supported by everyone who shouldn't love her, and never loved by those who should support her. Rika wants and tries to make herself special because she was told she should, and never supported to do it in a healthy way. Momoe is unique, but in a way that she hates. She's popular with women because of her somewhat masculine features. She gets asked out more than the rest of the cast combined. She has an Instagram following because people like her looks that much. Momoe is successful in a modern way because of her appearance, and she hates why. She's okay with the slight fame, as she says when asked by Neiru, sometimes you enjoy things in spite of yourself. But this non-feminine nature tortures her and acts as the crux of her character. And it's valid to hate your body. It's understandable to look at yourself and think, I hate this, even when other people like it, especially when it doesn't feel like you looking back at yourself. And when other people compliment the thing you hate, it only really feels worse and worse. But she lets this drain on her soul persist. She gets confused for a boy, but also dresses in menswear. We know she doesn't enjoy this clothing. She goes on a date and presents herself in a much more feminine way than usual, and seems the most happy when she does. It goes terribly, the one who asked her out thinking she was a boy, but she's still happy and smiling. This isn't entirely a manufactured situation. There's something to be said about doing something you hate because of expectation, because of fear to be yourself, or because it's shown you success. But even in this dream world, she plays the part of a suave savior, one to protect in a traditional sense. Momoe is different in a way she hates, but to try and be special, she has to continue it. Then there's Neiru, the most unique of the grouping. She's successful, smart, ambitious, all things many would kill for. She is the goal of many lives before an age where they're even thinking of goals. But what does it cost her in another sense? Neiru is the least likable of the group. She has few social skills, she only understands the world in cold and logical terms, and often finds herself at odds with others. She's able to admit with a smile that she's selfish, saving others only for her own comfort and desire. She feels inhuman in many ways, despite being the supposed picture of human success. With the addition of her former friend Kotobuki, we see what special means for Neiru, though. It isn't running a company and having a massive IQ, it's soft moments between two friends. A warm smile and a subtle laugh. It's the things people like them struggle to understand at times, the average minutes of life. Kotobuki is willing to kill herself in her scientific pursuits just to see what's on the other side, leaving behind someone who loves her without any remorse or sadness. She's happier to make a new discovery and content that in another universe she's alive with her love. For Neiru, the things she never got to fully see with friends like this are unique. Girl talk and school and subtly changing your hairstyle, things she wished she could do, but that no one in her world would understand or care about. In success, she feels loneliness, missing out, and isolation. With her in the mix, the term special becomes fully subjective. But they all have reasons why they want to feel special. They all have reasons why they play their situations a little bit to try and feel special. But why do they want to feel special? Why is it something they feel needs to be desired in the first place? Why is it something any of us feel? For many of us, this is probably the reason. This, what you're watching right now or later on today, Wonder Egg Priority or The Avengers, anime and movies and television and narrative and story. Even the way we learn history is most often shaped by an accompanying narrative. Great people who were spurred on by righteousness or evil to become leaders and founders. The events of their lives gained eternal reason, and that is how we perpetuate them. There's a concept that's been dubbed many similar names. Today we'll be calling it Protagonist syndrome. This is the idea that we live our lives like the main characters of a story. The events of our lives are just part of a greater plot with us at the center. These slow, dull moments build our character, and then the exciting or eventful ones serve as the action, and our pain is the motivation, the reason why we are the main character. Every hero has a backstory where some tragedy incited the action of their life, and we're the same. Our struggles are deep and complex, influenced by where we're from, who we grew up with, the friends we loved and lost, past relationships, acts of nature, and all of these things stir our livelihood. In most stories, past trauma becomes a strength, something purposeful, a tool which leads to the defeat of evil through the knowledge gained from that suffering. In short, in a story, things happen for a reason. Everything means something or leads to something. It's no wonder we, or these girls, would have a desire to live under the pretense of the main character. Their and our trauma means something if we are. Something related to this is the lack of concern they have for their surroundings. Not in a destructive way, but in an accepting way. This world is weird and something we've never experienced, but none of them question it. The abandoned arcade where they can bring those who committed suicide back to life with the help of 2 talking dummies. This is likely down to the time constraints of a 12-episode anime, something left on the cutting room floor for more pressing matters. But in the context of these characters, I think it could be something more. Why would they question this world? We shouldn't just say that they don't question the world, but ask why they might not. So far, despite the danger, it's been providing them through some means with exactly what they wanted. Ai's dull life is more special. Rika gets a chance to be more than the product of her origins. Momoe finds friends who eventually see her for who she wants to be. And Neiru gets friends who aren't focused on hyperintelligence or science, just the life she's always wanted. It's likely just the same flaw we see in many 12-episode anime, but we can contextualize it to see these girls as even more desiring of this speciality. One other thing they all share is the idea that they had a hand in the deaths of those so close to them. They have varying degrees of guilt. Ai is unsure. Momoe and Rika feel their actions directly influence the decision, and Neiru is more of a mystery, but she feels a desire to see it through anyway. They all want closure on these lost lives. They want to know why. If they're a protagonist in a story, then there's a reason why. These things happened for a reason, and they'll be undone for a reason. It's morbid, but a true feeling. To believe you're the leading role is to have hope that all the bad happens for some good. The idea that you were bullied is just an inciting action before you blossom into something greater. Or the thought that one day you can become a good person through closure and outgrow a decaying family tree. Or the chance that true love, the kind that sees through appearance, will present itself before you, or even just the feeling that the normal days around the corner were earned and deserved in some way. Bad things lead to better days, especially for protagonists. So sometimes we might wish bad things would happen to us, things that shift the path of our life and make it into something worthy and strong. This feeling has a term coined by the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, laicism. And think about it, survivors of natural disasters or supreme human failures or even others' mistakes are remembered for their struggles. Through no fault of their own, the world attempted to kill them and they survived, living on forever in the history books, news broadcasts, and articles, and clickbait lists, YouTube videos, any number of things. They may be forever changed, scarred, or tormented by these events, but they became special through disaster. In other words, laicism could be called the desire for a story that someone would want to watch. I want to become one of these markers in history. To be the main character is to be special, so if you're special, you can be the main character. And to be the main character is to put reason to your trauma, to make it feel like more than just pain. But there's a flaw to this logic. Based on our own perception, no one but us can be the main character of what we see. We, to some degree, understand ourselves easier than others. We can guess and posit and ask what drives others, but we know inherently what drives us. We know that these struggles of our stories aren't simply flaws, but some influence to be overcome. or they're the cause of worldly influences that are simply beyond our control. It may look like our fault from the outside, but we understand the internal complexity of our situation. Yes, I didn't do my schoolwork, but it's because there was so much weighing down on me, not because I'm lazy like it may look. No, I haven't paid for my own stuff, but it's not because I'm a mooch, it's just how I was taught to be. Yes, I dress like a boy and enjoy the fame despite myself, but at least it's something. It means people are looking at least. Yeah, I can be cold and harsh, but that's just what the world is, right? It's logic in numbers, and I can't help that. Fundamental attribution theory explains this. It states that we place external attributions on ourselves and internal ones on others. Our shortcomings are the product of the world, not ourselves. There's so many outside influencing factors. Of course, we're not going to be perfect all the time. And this is just a small section of the broader attribution theory, which tries to provide some context to why we place reason on what we do. Humans love reason. We give it to everything, and being the protagonist does give reason to everything. But then, everyone has this within them. We are all the main characters of our own stories, and just extras in others. That life-changing conversation with a friend in that cafe, that was just the background noise to the worst breakup of someone's life. And that was just the hazy backdrop to the cashier's introduction. And all of it was just a quick blur to the chase scene happening outside. There's a word for this, once again by the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. Sonder. The realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own, populated with their own ambitions, friends, routines, worries, and inherited craziness. An epic story that continues invisibly around you like an anthill sprawling deep underground, with elaborate passageways to thousands of other lives that you'll never know existed, in which you might only appear once, as an extra sipping coffee in the background, as a blur of traffic passing on the highway, as a lighted window at dusk. These girls are not special. We are not special. No one is special. We are only human, and being human is to find reason in everything. The basic principle of occurrence is cause and effect. A happens, which causes B to happen. These factors and outcomes can be endlessly complex, but they still follow this pattern. Only in life there's a lot of times where we only see the effect. We witness what is or has happened and then apply reason to determine the cause. We see a car crash on the side of the road and look at the skid marks, the position of the cars, the attitude of the drivers, and make assumptions as to the cause. This practice is hardwired into our brains. Finding patterns in the world around you is a good tool for survival. Chances are the new car parked outside isn't a murderer there to kill you, it's probably just your neighbor's friend. But what if it was? To reason the worst involving yourself is the safest option. It's the one which allowed for the most survival and became a positive trait to pass on. It's human to look at everything around you and explain the occurrences as involving yourself somehow. Even the suicide of a friend. Putting reason to the random nature of the universe is just what we do, and in a world dominated by narrative, reasoning yourself to be the protagonist is an effective tool to accomplish that task. Stories have been refined over centuries of practice to the point where certain structures and elements are discernible in an endless number of ideas. Because they're some of the best and most engaging ways to explain a plot or a character and just an overall story. Adapting this to your own life is just making use of years and years of work by humanity to fulfill a selected trait inherent to ourselves. Sometimes it's not the healthiest option. It leads us to purposeful isolation, believing falsehoods spread by others to be true because it fulfills a pattern and fits the narrative. It drives us to treat others terribly because that gives logic to our ill-fated origins and provides hope that we could surpass those initial conditions. It makes us feel like success, no matter how costly to ourselves, is worthwhile, that attention is well placed and good, even when it isn't. Or that our beginnings are so special, we could never be close to someone. We're different and unique, so much so we could just never experience those things. Being the main character of your story isn't self-centered, but it also isn't altruistic and well-meaning. It's not special, it's just human. But there's a beauty to that. not being special doesn't mean boring or average or worthless. It just means that there are other people who have experienced similar things, came from a close place, or feel things in a relatable way. They'll never know exactly what your mind is telling you, but they know what theirs is telling them, and sometimes, because we're not special, that's pretty close to what yours is telling you. We're not the main character of the universe, just of our own stories. Whether we like that or not, it's true. Sometimes it's hard to accept, but it doesn't mean being the side character for someone else is a bad thing, or even an extra in the background. Sometimes we love side characters, sometimes we even love the random extras. Being a side character means you're adding another episode to someone else's story. More time that doesn't take away the tragic moments, but makes them a smaller portion of the total. Sometimes we have more power as side characters in that way. A friend in a time of need, a random conversation over the internet, or just a smile passing by on the street. We'll find reason in whatever we need to. So let's give each other those positive reasons. Being the protagonist can be exhausting, so take time to appreciate your roles in the background. Take in the sights of someone else's life and be happy that they can be a star too. Relax as a blur in the background, knowing that for a moment there is no expectation, no goal, just you and them and just us. I hope one day I can see more of your stories, playing my part as a source of ideas, background noise to a night in, or a simple blur on the screen for something more pressing. I hear your stories star some pretty interesting people, so thank you for letting me join them, if only for a moment, and I hope you'll let me do so again sometime soon.